Jambo, and Linden in English. Welcome to this special event, our annual Eusi Kwayana Emancipation Symposium. To those of you who have traveled to come to Boston, welcome to a free space. We come again to commemorate an important event, and that is emancipation. The process of emancipation. I would like us to give a warm welcome to our panelists. If you can, give them a warm welcome. As usual, when we meet like this, these moments are pregnant with memories, with anxieties, with celebrations, but always a moment of hope. Hope that the journey that began with the Middle Passage, that brought the children of Africa here against their will, that we have survived. We have survived the Middle Passage. We survived the plantation. We survived post-plantation. And we are here to tell the story. And so, whenever we gather like this, it is always to affirm our humanity. Because even when the gates of the plantation were shut, the struggle continued. So tonight, we come to talk. We come to discuss. We come to plan in the open space. We come to give notice that all is not well, and that we want to be part of making our country well. Our theme tonight is centering racial equality in an age of oil wealth. And the emphasis here is on equality. The man whose name adorns this lecture is a son of this village. And he was particularly concerned with the question of racial unity. So much so that the first African organization that was founded in our post-independence era was called the African Society for Racial Equality, headed by Eusi and others. And as we meet again was not fashionable, and that is erase the question of race. And he not only raised the question of race, he raised the question of racial equality. And so we come 62 years later in the village that he spent most of his life to engage that question, the question of equality. Equality as a human principle. Some say that all men and women were created equal. The human rights activists say that equality is an abiding principle. And in a society where various groups came and were forced to live together, the question of equality remains an abiding question. And for us Africans, whose unique experience, that experience of enslavement, that unique experience, for us, that question of equality is even more urgent. And so, tonight, we sit, we stand, we sit, to put our minds together so that we can continue that discussion, that discourse, and that struggle. We have assembled a team to begin that discussion in the hearing and the presence of you here, and in the hearing and presence of the world, because we are being streamed live. Our panel tonight comprises Mr. Vincent Alexander, who is no stranger to our village. He has come here many, many times, and he has participated in our events. Please give him a round of applause. Mr. Roysdale Ford, who I'm told that his mother's family hails from the Spencers of Boston. I think this is the first time Roysdale has, however, come as part of our emancipation celebrations. So let's give him a big we in Boston have been known and perhaps continue to be known as a place, a space, and a people who are frank and who are contrary. Tonight, for the first time, a young man who also has descendants in Boston is gracing us for the first time. Some will say contrary. Some will say fire. Some will say resistance. But all will say a no-nonsense man. Please give Apostle. The next person is special. Special because he's not African-Guyanese. But this village, although it is predominantly African-Guyanese, we have historically been a multiracial village. At the Boston front, we have always had Indian Guyanese who are bona fide Bostonians. And so we thought that we will mix it up tonight. And we will invite Brother G.H.K. Lall, who has fast become a household name, who has sought over time to understand the African condition. And so let us give him a warm. Brother Nigel Eusi, who has got his citizenship in Boston, and you will understand why we give citizenship just now. He's done with a very bad flu. He could barely speak, and I spoke with him just now. And so unfortunately, he's not going to be with us tonight. But please give him a round of applause. And we are expecting Sister Simona Brooms to join us. Please give her a round of applause. And we do two things in this Republic of Boston. We roll the drums wherever we are. And we also sing our national anthem. And we do have a national anthem. It's called the Boston Battle Song. I now invite teacher Yvette Carroll to come and lead us in singing the Boston Battle Song. Can you stand? Boston, my own native land, the audacity of those who thought that we should have our own anthem. I want to thank the people from the Reparations Committee who have traveled from Georgetown to be with us here tonight. We are eternally grateful to you. Please give them a round of applause. the chairman of the 1st of August movement, which is one of the organizations that is sponsoring this event. He's making his way to the podium, Mr. David Jones.
Thank you for being nice. My issue tonight is nice. So what I can be expressed is to give every one of you here a very hearty, holy Boston welcome. It is something that we have been doing for decades now. And for some reason, people always find themselves at home in Boston. And I sincerely hope that all of you who are visiting with us tonight, that you will feel at ease and relaxed as you listen to our wide cadre of distinguished speakers, and that you will take every message that you will hear here tonight and develop on it. Our main purpose is the awareness. We have reached that stage where we have to talk about awareness, of being aware of everything that is happening around us and take the corrective measures. I know that the lineup of speakers that we have here, you will not be found wanting, especially what they will say to you. So, at this time, I will only sit back, enjoy, and digest every ounce of the message that will be coming to you. And I pray that you extend and that you develop it and that you share it, because that is what we need to do. So once again, stay blessed and a hearty welcome to you all.
I'm told that Sister Simona is here, so let's give her another one. And let's give her a master drummer and the lecturer. A very big round. And I want to especially welcome someone who may not be known to many of us, but he was one of the persons, my age group, but someone who, in a sense, nurtured me when I became a political activist and a cultural activist almost 50 years ago. And he's here this evening. He's of the Cromwell family, John Cromwell. Please give Brother John a round. Thank you very much. And we will now begin our presentations, I will call on Brother Vincent Alexander, who is a proudest, so he will take the new one and get us going. Please give Brother Vincent. So many hats. In Parliament, G-Com, Burnham Foundation. All right, let's start there. Give Brother Vincent that.
Sound with the meeting. I'm Gabriel. The elders should move. I'm indeed pleased and privileged to be here in Roysdale once again on the occasion of an annual symposium for the sage, Eusi, Kwayana. Kwayana is someone I had reason to probably silently and privately admire for my entire life. If only in the first instance because of his humility. There are not many persons I have seen who have been as humble as Kwayana has been, notwithstanding the wealth of knowledge which he gives. He gives with tremendous humility. For that I've always admired him. I've always said to myself that you never recognize Kwayana as a politician. Never recognize him as a politician. Let me quickly explain that. Politicians can't think all the time. They have to think and stop to act. Because if they think all the time, then they will never get to the point of concrete action. I sense that the problem that has caused me now to describe Kwayana or use Kwayana as a politician is that he's a continuous, non-stop thinker. A philosopher. Quite a life for long. You have to make many stops to act. So he's a politician. This evening we are here to speak about equality. And I was told that I should speak about equality from the perspective of the family G. In fact, I should speak about empowerment from the perspective of the family G, the national delegate of the people of African descent, Assembly-Guyana. But the overall theme is about equality. And you've already been told that we're all equal, we're all born equal. I would like to immediately contextualize that. Recently, this understood. If I ask you all to stand with me all in the same way, if I check the eyes, might not have the same vision. The ears might differ. And that suggests that we're not equal. That we're not equal. But yet we say we're all born equal. We say that because, notwithstanding the differences which are natural among us, we have equal rights. The right to life, we all have that right. Irrespective of the difference physical state you be in. And there are other things that are natural rights which we have. And those are the things that allows us to describe ourselves as being equal, because we have the equal right to certain things. But even as we have the equal right to certain things, those rights cannot be realized if we are all treated the same way. Someone who is blind ought to be able to read, to associate, but that blindness requires special attention for him to exercise what may be called vision. Special attention. When we go to school, they tell us those who are short, sit in front, and those who are tall, sit in the back, so that we can all see on the blackboard. Different treatment to different people based on their physical being. And so, in this world, for us to realize our equality, the rights that we have, and be able to realize them, there is another E that has to be put in place, and that E is equity. Equity. That is to say, that based on the differences, we have to get special treatment to equalize us if our difference creates a natural shortfall. We have to get equity, special treatment. So if we went to a school that had a blackboard, that was a tall blackboard, you might have to get a little stand or stool. The short children to stand on right at the top of the building, while the tall ones don't need that. It means you have to expend more. You have to give special treatment where people are naturally differently able. And that our work applies, really applies to this question of equity. Where people are differently able. They're all able, but differently able, because of the natural endowment or lack of. So that's the natural state of things. We all have rights. We should all enjoy those rights. And society owes it to us to create the environment for us to enjoy those rights. And therefore, those of us who are differently able and need different treatment to enjoy those rights. But we live in a world where, unfortunately, inequality has also been imposed on us. Why does I refer earlier to natural inequality? We live in a world where, in addition to natural inequality, there are systems that have imposed inequalities on us. And that has been the case, the historic case of the people of Africa itself. The colonizers, the slave traders, the Europeans have sought to impose inequality by the way which historically beginning with enslavement they treated the people of Africa. And so we are in a peculiar situation where as individuals we may need that equity for the purpose of equalization. But as a people, we also need equity for the purpose of the economy, repairs, and equalization. And I dare say the world owes that to us because that inequality, that artificial inequality, was imposed. It's not natural. It's not God-made. It's man-made and imposed. And has taken away from us. Has taken away from us that status that we were born with, and that gave us the right to be equal. It's taken away from us that equality that is given to us at birth. And so we are in a state where equity is required as a people, not as individuals, as a people, to restore our natural state so we can be equalized and benefit from what the world has to offer. And it's a recognition of that imposition over the centuries that brought the United Nations to that point where they concluded that something has to be done officially about that state of inequality and inequity. As a consequence, declared a decade of the people of African descent, starting in 2015 and ending in 2024. That decade and what that decade speaks to is a right in all circumstances, because what it seeks to do is to bring into being the rights we have been denied, and to take us out of the state we've been in because of the denial of those rights. That is what the decade is about. The way in which you are denied those rights was by system. A system that sought to say you were inferior. And because the system deemed us inferior, it treated us different. And that treatment was institutionalized. Enslavement was an institution. That treatment was institutionalized. And there are many other institutions which are part of the system I'm referring to that sought to impose upon us that state of inferiority and inequality. In addition to the institutional arrangements, and let me just take another example so it becomes clear. Only tonight I was watching the TV and there was a documentary on Martin Luther King, which spoke to what happened to Rosa Parks. She, as a member of the African American community, could not enter the bus in front. Now, when she stood in the first half, those are all the acts, and that's an institutionalized arrangement. An institutionalized inequality. You have to sit at the back. You can't go to the same school with the whites. Those are all institutional arrangements that have been imposed to bring about the inequality and talk. But those institutional arrangements are also supported by legal arrangements. So in South Africa, laws were passed that the blacks had to have a special pass to go in certain places. Laws were passed that you would live in certain places. All of those laws sought to enforce inequality. So you had a system, institutional arrangements, to impose inequality upon us. And therefore, as we talk about the national levy for people of African descent, what we are talking about is removing those institutional arrangements and removing those legal frameworks and all that has flowed from it, so that we can be equalized as our natural birth entitles us to be, and be able to enjoy the environment and as individuals, equity to really make us equal. And that is what the decade is really about. And I dare say that is where the problem is in Guyana. There's a refusal to accept in Guyana the state we're in because of historical reasons and because of the retention of some of those institutions, the retention of the legal framework, and the fact that even if those institutions have been removed, even if the legal framework has been removed, we have not been given the opportunity to catch up, because when they were in place, we were left behind. And so even in the instance where they argue the institutions no longer exist, and the legal framework no longer exists, which is not completely true, much of it still exists. There is a need to recognize that we still carry the baggage of what occurred, even if those things have since been changed, and therefore there is need for special attention to overcome, to get rid of that baggage. And that is what the decade is about. It's not about a handout here and a handout there. It's not about saying that all Guyanese are equal because we all go to the same school. Because even as we go to the same school, the history that is taught does not give recognition to the contribution of the people of African descent to the building of Guyana, nor to the contribution of the people of Africa to human civilization. This is taught, and by virtue of that there is a consequence. The level of recognition we should have of people we do not enjoy. So there is a great need for those who are supposed to be in charge to understand. It's not about we can all have a cash flow. And in fact, we all have a cash flow. That's our reality. And in fact, we discovered when we did the survey after the floods, we did the survey. We spent some of that money which was given to us to do that survey. In fact, I think we spent something in the vicinity of $4 million to do a survey. And found that somewhere in the vicinity of 4,000 persons had not been beneficiaries of the cash of the flood. 4,000 persons. And those names were submitted to the Minister of Agriculture to correct that situation. Of course, he criticized the bill and the Parliament and waiting to be able to say how he had been responsible. The point I make is that as we come down on this day, there is still much to be done to set the framework for the repair that is required of the people of African descent. And this has nothing to do with disrespect, dislike for anyone else. It has to do with confronting the reality of our state. And that all should be confronted that reality from wherever they are located. And that the state has a responsibility more than anyone else to confront that reality, because the state is the successor of that system that imposed it upon us and has an obligation to reverse, to undo, to redress. And so we cannot take it from the statement they say, we appreciate people of African descent because they advocate enslavement, but we're not doing anything special for them because we can't do all equal. We have to all suffer the same historical circumstances. And in this instance, historical circumstances suffered from people got to be addressed. I dare say to you, and if you don't understand that, if you don't stand up for that, then those who don't understand will not invite you to the redress. We have got to make them understand. First of all, for our own understanding, the need for that redress as a matter of right. And in doing so, we have got to put our houses in order so that we can be in that state that allows us to make the call for redress. Our houses, or our house, not another, will not be able to effectively make that. So the struggle has to be in two fronts. Putting our house in order as the basis for being able to make God. And so I close and say, the water will move to the shore. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Vincent. The question that faces us in Guyana today is, now that there is enough to go around, how it will be distributed. You see, at the time of independence, what we had was a nation. We were coming out of colonialism. And the question was, who was going to govern the nation? And the different ethnic groups in the society had to address that question. Who was going to govern? I suppose that question has still not been answered. But 60 years after independence, we have now gotten wealth, regardless of what is cheated away from us, what is being taken away by foreigners. There is still more than we ever had. And the central question is how it will be distributed. And that's a fundamental question. And always, the African, the black person, is central to that question. Why? Because all the groups came to this country, and all the groups were cheated. All the groups were oppressed. But the African had a particular oppression. They worked for over 200 years without any compensation. Just imagine that. That what we call Guyana today, the state of Guyana, it was the African labor that made Guyana possible. And every time the African has been told, wait. Sometimes we have been told to forget what we owe. But time is longer than time. And today, 185 years after formal emancipation, the question of our economic, social, and cultural emancipation must be on the front burner. The question of race and racial division and racial equality is a very difficult question because it brings up a lot of nasty memories. And people would rather us forget it. But if we forget it, we then forget how much we are owed. And I say, when you don't pay your workers because you didn't get the money to pay them, now you have the money, the first thing you do is you pay those who you owe the most. We ought not to play with that. They throw around words like entitlement. Oh yes, African Guyanese are entitled to what they work for nothing. 200 and odd years. Yes, we're entitled. And I'm saying here tonight, Brother Vincent said we have to put our house in order. And one of the things that we have to begin to do is to hold our hands and hold our hearts together and demand what is rightfully ours. The PPP does not owe African Guyanese anything. Jack Dio and others don't owe us anything. The state of Guyana owes African Guyanese a lot. And it's to that state to which we speak tonight. And insofar as the PPP is managing that state, and it is refusing to treat Africans as equal and equitable owners of the patrimony of the state, then they are cheating us. And so we are saying, we don't want footballs. We can get people from overseas to send that for us. We don't want your $20,000 and your $40,000 because that will do nothing to our chronic condition. What we want are policies aimed at fixing the scars of bondage, healing the scars of bondage. We want things that will make a difference to us, not just as individuals and as families, but as communities. Slavery was not about the individual African. It was about African people as a group. And so as a group, we've got to begin to put our house in order. And the first thing we've got to do is to watch ourselves in the mirror and say that we are human beings with souls and with spirits, and acknowledge that we are an African people. We are other things. We are Guyanese, we are Caribbean, we are Christians, we are Muslims, we are men, we are women, country people, tongue people. But this society judges us primarily on the color of our skin. We must get that in our heads. That's the first thing we must do. We must love ourselves. Because they are not going to compensate us as a group unless we affirm ourselves as a group. And with those words, I call to the microphone someone I consider to be a young warrior, young African warrior. Please help me again in welcoming Apostle Nigel.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hines, and to those who are sitting here with me at the head table, to those who've organized this event, and to all of the elders, most importantly to the sage, as Mr. Alexander rightly referred to him, Mr. Eusi Kwayana. I believe it would not be too much for us, for me to ask you to give him a round of applause tonight for the work that he's done. Let me say, I've traveled all the way from Linden, from Mackenzie, as you would say, to be with you this evening because this is that important to me. My father, my grandfather, Errol London, and my father, Walter London, being my grandfather, they both spent time here in Buxton, and his daddy would say Buxton. So I have every right to consider myself to be a member of the village. Thank you so much. It is a distinct honor to stand before you tonight, and I want to announce to all of you that I'm not sure whether I'll leave here with friends or enemies. What will happen is that I'll leave here telling the truth. To those who have the task of monitoring me, my daughter and her husband, they're here with me as well. Those who have the task of monitoring me and us on social media at Ivleri and Ayagana and wherever you monitor us from, good night. It is known in Buxton that sometimes when you speak, the police find you a few days later. And this village seems to be known for whatever reason. You seem to be known, or I should say we are known for, they say, causing trouble. And I therefore would like to think that I'm in the right village tonight. So if there's any police officer who's here in plain clothes and undercover, come out from your cover. Let me make it easy, because what I have to say tonight may benefit you. I must also ask us to give Mr. G.H.K. Lall a resounding round of applause. This is major. And I have the right to call him brother. I bid you shalom, which means peace. And I only reserve peace for those who are peaceful towards me. Dr. Hines would have presented me as Apostle Nigel London. When he did that, it means he presented to you an expectation that I'm a preacher and I'll come here to present you with prayers and ask for heaven to be open over Buxton and over African descendants so that we can say Kumbaya and ask those who are oppressing us to be kind. But I remember my Messiah, Yeshua, was saying when he was leaving, he says, it was the time I told you how to put away your sword, because you shouldn't fight. But now he said, I'm leaving you. If you don't have one, buy it. That's in your Bible, because there's a time for everything under the sun. And I've never seen, in all that I've read, freedom coming to a people who are peaceful and quiet. Let the preacher say it. I'll be forgiven. If you think it's a sin, but it's a fact. And telling the truth is not sinful. As a descendant of the African, or I should say Hebrew in some cases, when I saw this theme upon my being invited here, I cleared everything on my calendar to be here tonight. Because if we're going to be centering which means to focus deeply on something, centering racial equality in an orange Guyana, I had to be here. First of all, let me be clear to not miss my responsibility, which is to ensure we all understand the words in this theme. Centering speaks to focusing on something. When we speak to racial, it doesn't mean you're bad and you don't like people. Racial speaks to grouping, a mass grouping, based on your ancestry or how you look. So the Africans, as we call it, are classified as a racial group, not racist. To be racist means we hate somebody based on the ethnic composition of who they are ethnically. I do not have a bone in my body to hate anybody who is of a different ethnic group. I hate bad mind. I hate dirty mind. I hate people who don't tell me to love everybody. I should never love everybody. There's nothing as a preacher that I've ever read in the Bible says you must love everybody. I can't. For my God hates the wicked. And so do I. And in this country of ours, there are a group of people, not an entire mass of them. A few individuals who believe that they hold the African descendants' rights in their hands. And they must tell us how we must feel about what we went through. They must tell us what we should do about what we went through. Even tonight they'll say, I'm assuring you, maybe on my page or others they'll be typing, or in the news they'll say that this has been a political rally. Of course you have seen the council, Mr. Ford here, so they'll say that a member of parliament coerced Nigel to say what he said. And by midnight I'll be called a PNC. And if I say anything against Mr. Ford, I'll be called a PPP. And if I say I love Eusi, Kwayana and working, I'll be called a WPA. Because when you tell the truth, they don't know where to put you. But when I was told as a young man, I'm happy Dr. Hines called me that. 49 years young. I don't look it, but I am it. When I was told that African Guyanese cannot bid for contracts, I'm a contractor, they told me that to my face, actually on social media, that African Guyanese cannot bid for contracts to the tune of $1+ billion because we would never qualify for it. That was said to me this year, in the same decade about which Mr. Alexander spoke, that the United Nations gathered to say that we, the African descendants, based on what we've been through in the lives of our fathers and even after, we deserve to have 10 years devoted to us. I was told by support of the PPP Civic, and there's nothing civic about them, that African Guyanese could never qualify for contracts. And what hurt me the most is that is the truth. At this time, since they set a system in place to disqualify us before we even try. For example, they may have a road to be constructed. They say you have to have 60 trucks, 5 excavators, 3 front-end loaders. They know you don't have it. And they know who has it. So it doesn't make sense then for an African Guyanese contractor to bid for it, because you've been disqualified from the onset. And the friends, the families, the cronies, the sweet woman, the sweet man, the lackeys of these few men and women at the PPP side who will get the contract. In the same decade when the United Nations said that the focus must be on the African descendants because of what we suffer. But here's my problem. My problem is not with what he said. My problem is with how we react to those things. It is a time for everything. And until the African descendants arise in this country to demand, not ask, to demand what is right, ours will never have it. We are commended for being nice people. And for some of us, we love being called nice people. Not recognizing that nice people, in many instances, are those who they've classified as being too weak to stand for what you stand for. So I'm called controversial. I'm called a troublemaker. If anybody call me an extremist, a false prophet, I don't care. First of all, if you can't say the word reparative, you can't call me anything. And he's the one who said reproductive justice. Push it up. There's nothing you can call me to make sense because you can't talk with sense. If you're going to come out tonight, come out. It's getting warm in here. We have a right as a people, in reference to defining the word equality, to be treated in a manner that says we are equal, as Mr. Alexander said, but we have the right to equal opportunities. In the economic sector, even in the banks, they don't treat us equally. In some banks in Guyana, if you are African descendant, you are disqualified from certain loans. That's a fact. The interest rates differ. And yet we go put our money in those same banks. I call on us, we mean discussion, we talk about this, to have an Afrocentric bank in Guyana. I don't care who man. We need a bank that takes care of us in this decade. Equality means I must have the same rights as another person. I must also have, there's a big one here, the same status. And that's the problem in Guyana. Because we have some elitists in our society, including some Africans, who believe that they are too wealthy to even be in this room. They are too important to associate with us. And I've learned that in our country we have a problem, Dr. Hines, and that problem is that the racists have now married to the elitists in how they function. And that's a problem. Because it's one thing to dislike African people or Indo-Guyanese people. But when you say now that I think I'm better off than you because of my wealth or whatever it is, you're in trouble. So what I discovered with the few racists you have at the top of the PPP Civic Administration is that if it's an Indo-Guyanese, they apply the rule of elitism. I'm better than you. So if you don't have the kind of money I have, you're lesser than me. If they do it an African Guyanese, you're black, so you have nothing to get, period. Unless you call an Afro-PPP. And they set a ceiling in their circles where the African descendants will never ever be on the same page as others. I've asked a question privately and asked it publicly. On any camera, choose which one you want. Name 3 African men in Guyana now who by Jack they are allowed to be as wealthy as he is. And none of you can name them. Because we'll never allow it. And I always say to people, I don't know what lies in this weak chicken. If anyone had to fear his name. And Africans are saying, you gotta be careful, London. Be careful, you gotta drive home tonight because Charlie could do something. Do me what? My focus is beyond him. My focus tonight is on a whole generation of Europeans who brought us here. We didn't ask to be here. And up until today they're saying that we do not deserve to have what is rightfully ours. They say to us that if we demand it, then we become extremists. And they threaten some of us and say, we'll take your visa. If you speak the way Nigel London speaks, take it. This country has prospered for years. But the problem is who benefited from that prosperity. And then of course we speak to an oil-rich nation. Brothers and sisters, Guyana has always been oil-rich. My degree is in environmental sciences. I studied geology and geomorphology. Oil has been here for a long time. So we've always been oil-rich. We've not been rich because of oil. Now we get a chance to extract that and to sell it. And there are those who say that they have absolute control. I was horrified on the 1st of August and thereafter, just afterwards, when I saw Irfan Ali on the stage dancing with some young African men, saying that he's celebrating emancipation. I don't know the young man's name, I think it's Calvin or something like that. He's singing one love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. And Ali's dancing because as far as he's concerned, if Africans can agree to dance on the stage in the same decade when we got nothing in terms of reparation, he has a right to dance. We have been reduced to being handpicked. You come, Calvin, you come with us, y'all come. You're good enough to come and sing and dance here and just get happy because you get a moment on the stage, and it means we like black people. Ali didn't say one word that night that a special fund, a special committee is going to meet with IPADG, for example, and we're going to have a conversation to say that as of next year, we shall begin to pay specifically descendants of Africans. He didn't even say that. What we do is we dance on the stage and we go home and say, well, they like black people because after all, Ali danced with us. I'm here to announce to all of you who do this. If you dance with the crocodiles, the music will stop at some point. If you dance with the shark, at some point the song will stop. We cannot afford as a people to play around with our heritage, to play around with our rights. We have to understand clearly, and I'm here to speak to you as passionately as I can, that we as a people in this country must identify our enemies. You must know who they are. And you must understand that there's a way to treat with them. I will never be friends with those who oppress my people.
All right.
I have an issue with any African who calls on a European Caucasian or one of European Caucasian descent, like Sarah mentioned those. Please come and rescue us from the people. No! My fathers were too strong for me to ask any white man to deliver me from the people. They still, and they should still be, a fighting us that says, we will not ask any oppressor to free us. We shall demand what's rightfully ours. It shall be given to us. I'm not asking as I close for any international community to help me with anything. You are demons. Take my visa all you want, I don't want it anyhow. You want my oil, I don't want your country. You ever heard any mass shooting in the morning again? You all shoot each other all the time in the USA. What want your visa for? Okay, you're quiet. Somebody's taking the visa. The British High Commission, all y'all are the same thing. And this is on me. The views expressed now are those of Nigel. No, not necessarily those in the panels. No, don't want to give them. It's my I talk to you. You are the British High Commission, came to this country and didn't say a word about doing that which is right. Although they saw the people be trying to stop apartheid from functioning. And finally, I say to you all, as I will always say, Irfan Ali, Barra Jabi, Anand and any other one of you are disqualified from speaking to me about my ancestry, about who I am as an African. You can't speak for me. You can do nothing for me as an African man. You're not qualified for it. So when Ali said he's going to end racism, and he's going to ensure that the likes of him is talking to me because he can't call my name till now. Those who are trying to spread division in Guyana, he's going to stop them because he's of the view, like tonight this will be called a racist group. Because you've gathered to talk about that which concerns African people. If I have to be called racist for standing for the rights of my people, call me that.
Yes.
I am never afraid to be called bad things. When I open my door in my house and I have peace in it, I am fine. But if we all want to be pretty boys and pretty girls and behave as best as we can, then Massa has us where they want us. I submit to you tonight that for us to have racial equality in Norwich, Guyana, we must control the oil in Guyana. We must control our lands. They should be able to discuss this, I hope. Laws made in this country that no Guyanese must be allowed to sell his land to anybody from another country. Lease it, don't sell it. Protect what is ours. We must control our wealth. Further, I say that if you can tell me, based on history, that my forefathers dug so many canals in Georgetown, then respect me for that. And have something in Guyana, whatever you call it, to say African descendants will have a 40% reduction in their water rate based on what their forefathers did. Talk about solutions. With that, I say to you all that I'm grateful that I could stand and I could sweat in Buxton. Because I am ready for whatever they try. I am not a preacher who preaches fear. I have a history in the loins of my forefathers, and at some point they must be repaid for what they've suffered. Anyone who supports my oppressors is my enemy. Anyone who allows my oppressors to talk down to me is my enemy. I'm here to say to you that I'm not a victim, neither are we victims. If an Ali cannot begin any speech on emancipation in telling me that my forefathers overcame slavery, I didn't begin as a slave. Don't start by talking to me as if I'm a slave. I'm not a slave. I am not the son of a slave either. I came from greatness, and great men don't beg. Thank you, sir.
As a young man was coming up the steps tonight, he saw me there, he said, I come to hear you, Nigel Eusi, and Nigel London. Well, you've heard Nigel London. As we used to say as little boys, you get up, you go outside, and pay and come in back. You know, they talk about all kinds of things, and we hear the language, local content. That's fine. But we also want African content. They talk about the better contract with Exxon. We want a better contract between the state of Guyana and African people. They talk about a better signing bonus. Well, after all that money that you owe our grandparents, give us a better signing bonus. No! You know, a few people called me, good friends, said, David, you know, black people got to get together and talk the thing. Why you invite GHK now? He's not a black man. And I said, let me be professorial. You see, blackness is a phenomenon. And some of us are phenotypically black. We got black skin. But some of us are ideologically black, even though we don't have black skin. And I want to say tonight that GHK Lall is blacker than Mark Phillips. Blacker than one Ejir. And Mark Phillips' office called us, Bostonians who stopped trade, on the afternoon of our activity last week at the Linden, and sought to instruct us that Mr. Phillips is the Prime Minister and acting President, and is coming to Boston, and he will be speaking last. Well, I wanted a place in Boston called Bottom Station. The Bostonians know you're bad at Bottom Station. You're bad. But I contain myself. I said, we have our program, we have our main speaker, and we've been doing this for 54 years, and no government has ever imposed itself on us, and this government will not impose itself on us. Yes. Mr. Phillips will not impose itself on us. And I said that if Mr. Phillips showed up, he would be welcomed, and I got 15 minutes to talk. I will give you 5 minutes to make some remarks. So I want to take them in chance. Because the Bostonians were going to. But Mr. Phillips smelled the rat. And they called me 10 minutes after to say the Prime Minister will no longer be coming to us. And so, as I invite GHK Lall, I want to say any day of the week, any hour of the day, I rather have GHK Lall come to Boston than Mark Phillips.
centering racial equality in an oil-rich Guyana. A few years ago, a question was put to me, and it went like this: what is the most important issue in this country? And immediately I said, our racial problem, our racial division, our racial inequity. So no, the island is the biggest thing. And I said, just as quickly, we could get on the island in war, and we would have the best oil of all. And it would do nothing. It will matter a lot if we can't begin to address the inequalities in this society. Right. My sisters and brothers, my fellow villagers in this nation, we are not short of money. Unlike other times, we are not short of money. Bad contract, low royalty. We've got enough money so that every single Guyanese, particularly the African Guyanese who have been left out and who have been left behind and who's lagging behind, has a participation, has a right, a birthright to that equality. We are not begging. Notice I said we. It is our birthright. This oil-rich Guyana. You have heard of the history of our brother, the apostle. Tough act to follow. You heard what is happening in Parnaji, where a man I'm meeting for the second time tonight, who knew my wife would be parting well. He has been demonized and criminalized for standing up and for representing the well-being of black people in this country. Since when is that a crime? Right. Since when do you spare people for doing that? That is what has happened to Brother Alexander and his team. If that is not racial injustice, if that is not racial inequality, then somebody please help me. That I haven't been to school, that I haven't learned anything, that I don't know anything. Centering racial equality in the age of oil, in oil-rich Guyana. It is timely, and I congratulate the organizers of this Eusi Kwayana Symposium 2023. I congratulate them for its timeliness, centering racial equality. We can put the oil wealth on the table. It is proven, it is guaranteed, it is known, there is no argument. And you can take it off. We all agree with that. Who are here, who are listening, who are not here. And the racial equality has to be on the table. It has to be the centering that this theme is about. And the centering is the moving of it, the hauling of it, and the dragging of it to the center of the table. In the center of the spotlight, the center of the attention of this nation, and the center of the world. This is what is going on in this country, in an oil-rich country at this time, and it just should not be. And it's happening to African Americans. The people who, second citizens, if I may say, after the indigenous, who have given up blood, sweat, and tears, ancestors, centuries. You've heard that, you know that more than me, more than I will ever know. You feel that pain that I can never feel. You've borne those blows, your people that I can't feel. But I tell you this, what is happening here is not just injustice, it's not an inequality, it's a crime. It's an inhumane. It's inhumane. The definition for the situation. Some few big steps we know about in partnership. We heard about the budget, the supplementary budget deliberations. 4 billion for sugar early in the year. 1.5 billion more for sugar. Where are you? What is coming to you? How many millions you got? I've dropped the D, I've put it in M. We're talking millions now, not billions. How many have come? Millions have come to you. I am a resident of Georgetown, the capital city, our capital city, the nation's capital city. And because the majority of people don't look like me, look at me, then it is in the state that is doing do so. That is racial equality or racial inequality? You tell me. Because it is reputed to be a stronghold of a certain political group, and I look at my brother there, Roysdale, then it is made to feel the brunt of the rage of those who control the levers of power, racial and political. And we replicate the community of Georgetown in its wider boundaries into this community and communities across the length and breadth of Guyana. And we say, this is the racial equality that should not, inequality that should not be, and the racial equality where there is a level playing field, that other communities that get roads and bridges and wells, they must be the same thing. Yes, it's nice that the president goes and cuts grass and puts some garbage in whatever. But those are lipstick and Johnson baby powder. It's cosmetics. We need the substance. African Guyanese people, Aboriginal Guyanese people, and poor Indian Guyanese need the substance of this oil richness. This oil patrimony from the Latin pater. Our fathers gift to us. Centering means that it must not be. Centering racial equality, the fight for it, the struggle for it, means that it must not be on the edge of our consciousness. It must not be on the edge of our convictions. It must not be on the edge of our conversations. It must be in the center, constantly. Cricket must not be. Cricket must not distract us. Jamaican dancehall must not distract us. And when they come with a $20,000 or some raise or some friend, we must be able to tell them, this is God. You haven't started. We are not looking for charity. We are looking for equity. We are not looking for charity. We are centering racial equality. It's a standard. It's that set of policies. It's those sets of programs that are inclusive, of which the United States Secretary of State spoke about, of which the Vice President of the United States spoke about, which the U.S. Ambassador outgoing spoke about. Why are you not speaking about this constantly? Why is this on and off? Why is this hot and cold? It can't be hot and cold. It can't be sometime and next time and all the time. It's got to be all the time. It can't be hot and cold. It's got to be warm and then hot and hotter. Yes, it's got to be that way, or you ain't gonna get anywhere. Nothing is going to be given to you. Nothing will be believed to belong to you. We are going to have to stand up. I wish there were more people like me who would step forward and be honest enough, intellectually honest, not academically. Intellectually honest. We are intellectually dishonest when we stand on the sidelines. We we are intellectually dishonest when we stay silent. And if you stay silent, you are joining with your oppressors. My sisters and brothers, you are, whether you like me or not, whether you agree with me or not, you are my sisters and brothers. I believe in that. What's the objective of racial equality? A fair share for Guyana. And a fair slice for every Guyanese. A fair slice for every African Guyanese, every Amerindian Guyanese, every Indian Guyanese. And a fair slice for every Guyanese man, woman, and child, regardless of their color or their political persuasion. So help us God. Whatever God you believe in, put your energies to it, put your devotion to it, put your prayers and your passions to it, and make it happen. Racial equality, centralizing, centering, not on the periphery, not on the edges of your consciousness or your conscience, but it must be in the middle. Go back, dragging it from the edges, racial equality, dragging it all in, carrying it on your backs. Get off your knees and carry it to the center of the table, in the center of the spotlight, in the center of the attention of the world. Then, and only then, we will get to that place of racial equality in the world which was. May God bless us all.
When we were putting this panel together, we wanted to set an example to those of us who are trying to break down the citadel, who are trying to break down the evil empire. We are saying that when we're fighting, we must fight with everything we have. We are not a monolith. Some of us are PNC, some of us are WPA, some of us are non-partisan, some of us are warriors. We wanted to say to our political leaders, you can't fight these people as one man or one woman. You have to fight with everything. And I tell you, I've been doing this from since I was in Sharp Pines. And I know that I've met some people along the way who, whenever I'm going to the battlefield, I want them by my side. And one person who I will always want by my side when I'm going to fight is the person I'm calling it. Sister. I know that she's a warrior. Yeah. She told me some early mornings. And she said, she called me my elder brother. I couldn't sleep last night. This thing on my mind. And I want to run it by you to see if I'm crazy. I said, no, Simona, you ain't crazy. You just revving yourself up to go to war again. Sister Simona.
Dr. Hines, Mrs. Vincent Alexander, Senior Counsel Roysdale, Ford, Apostle London, and Mr. Lall. But to you, the wonderful people of Boston. It's a privilege and it's an honor to be here. But every season, I said season, it got to come to an end. And the season that we are talking about, once we put it to the center, we got to bring it to an end. And tonight, as an African woman, as a Guyanese woman, I want you to join me. None of you must leave here tonight feel like you're so victim. End of that season. This is the time for gathering. This is the time for taking over. The only how if we come to the center, we gotta take the power. We got to put it to the center. They will not. I said the PPP will never. Bostonians, I got a short little thing to say, but I want to sprinkle a few things. Back in those days, you had Facebook, you had Instagram, you had anything. And our forebearers, they had excavator. And they understand the importance of who they were. And so you think that they sit down home and say, we got excavator and something going on. Those people build a village. Not a street, you know. What are you building? From since then, with Boston, the Honorable Lall spoke about the land. You know who taking the lands behind Boston? Hello? Let me correct you from up here. You ain't seen about Lall's for a housing scheme? You think it's about science? You ain't even defending. And much less to build. But we'll change that tonight. Because it says a time for building. Because you gotta come to the center. And we don't come to the center when we just come here and sit down and talk. By the way, if you say I'm just giving me this place is for. Some Bostonian big argument with me. They said that people come to here and build a road. Some $50-something million and they put it up on Facebook. I say, y'all finish it. The PPP still in this time, Dr. Hines, see us as a people that didn't even know what dollars and cents they buy. You giving 4 and 5 billion to sugar workers, and you got Bostonians pushing you and promoting you. The 50-something million must be about 50-something. When you do the maths, some of them like because people gotta get a cut out of it. So they can't get a bill. Because the cut is big. Taking the conversation about rights and all what we're hearing here tonight, it gotta come with some actions. It gotta come with some actions, you know. And I want to ask the question if you're ready for any action. Yeah. Are you ready for action? Yeah. One of the things before I put action, that's a little short time and on. Well, I didn't want to go well. We must recognize, I said must, that equality and inclusive economic growth will benefit all of us. I said all of us, regardless of your race or your political positions. If we can ensure, if we that we get equality, and equality comes to the center of the table. That is the only way we can get a beautiful life. We cannot do it in the fashion of the Jagamites and the Ephraimites and all the mites that you're hearing about. The PPP was never about nation building, never about equality, never about respect, never about law. They maintain a caste system. Me, myself, friends, family, and the guy back again, you know, I. Remember the start of the top, me, myself, family, and I. Greed. 3 times they share it up. I want to congratulate the persons who bring this gathering together. But tonight, if we understand that the season we're in, this is the time and the only time. You know, when you look back at gold, wealth again, you know, look at who controlled it. You see it. You want to check all the money lands, you want to check the properties. At one time when Barja Yohana became the state house, he discovered 1,500 and something medium scale mining property. And how many PLs? And he said, wait, I did not take one some from you. And these things are happening time and time again. Tell me how many of you got sandbags? Tell them a loom. Tell them a forestry. Tell them a bauxite. It's going on now, you know. But now with the oil, plenty money, and bigger states. And the action I'm talking about, if the people have to pay the diplomats, we got to make them not only hear but see us. I said, if we can't be comfortable, who should be comfortable? You tell me who? Exxon? NGP? I remember the days. You know how open 50 came about? I remember the days when the Bostonians used to walk from Boston like that to Georgetown. And today, many of those persons look at the weakness and say, you're bowing to nothing. Because for the 3 years that the PPP in office, I want you to tell me some of the same people that ducking and bowing, how better off are they? Look around the village. So when they come and tell you, listen, now you're going to make some money, it's all about money. I ain't want to hear about center. I ain't want to hear about nothing, it's all money. So with the money you get in there, it's not even reflected in your own life. Bostonians, we got to come up with a plan of action and getting into the center of the table. I know Brother Vincent is the best thing in Chico. I don't believe in house to house, I don't believe in nothing. I want to bring biometric. Because we saw the whole world what happened at the count. We know this happened in the local government election. I thought you would bring it to the center. Bring it to the center, you gotta take the country. We got silent. I thought you were ready to watch it. I said we must, it is important that we understand that in order for all of us to live, we must be able to live with love and dwell and respect. Brother Lall said, I wish you had more persons like me. Who could have? Because it's only Brother Lall. When you read the newspaper, it's only Brother Lall. And then Brother Lall gets his own share of victimization for the truth, just like Apostle London. So it's not only happening with Apostle London, but you know what? We gotta make up our mind. We gotta make up our mind what's happening to all of us. It can't be a Apostle alone. It can't be a Lall alone. It can't be a Brooms alone. All of us must come together and put it together. We gotta want it that bad. It gotta come home. Brother Lall said, listen, don't talk about it today, tonight, and go and say, you know what, we had a good conversation. I need you to know the crook when you fish up edge. The crook behind where you see goes. Mismanaging of your resources and coming to the public for gospel ghosts like it was a joke. You know no pride. You know no pride. You know what's going on? Everybody wants to name it. Cannot govern that. Ain't good. See the contractor working, you know you got vision, it makes sense that night. Where you go into the contract, he said, I never know he's an engineer because the school you went to NXS. And he said to the contractor, you can't build the road, so go on this now. And the engineer tried to say something, you know. But he said, you know what he said? This got to be done. You know when he left there, the fish up here and don't say nothing. Is that governance?
No.
You telling me after the president tell the contractor, build the road down in the swamp without any foundation. Fish up and the engineer go after it. It's a one-man show. And you talking about one guy as a slogan. I called Dr. Hines the other day and I said, Dr. Hines, had I not held on for my faith in God, I feel like if I'm on a plantation there, I'm looking at slavery all around. Every time black people tell me, like they would tell Apostle London, you know, you gotta be careful, and you know, I ain't really want to, because when I say something, you know, Columbus, and you will come, and this idiot playing in fun. I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? Yourself? It is within us to get it to the table. It is within us. Everything starts with you, and it starts with me, and it starts with he. It starts with nobody alone. So tonight, I want to make a commitment. Because I believe and I know we can get into the center. But we gotta do it together. And when we get into the center, in the center, we're talking about all the people of this nation. Everybody get equal share of the pie, a bigger piece of the pie. Then, and only then, we can touch ourselves on our shoulders that we did something. Back in those days, they had great men that fought for the independence. From then, the parliament, I wonder whatever happened. Again, Nigel. From all the great things that ever happened. When I'm reflecting and looking to see where from all this independence, not by the way, you know, all the stories, all the national songs, we don't come up with one after all the years. Every single thing took place then. We gotta make something happen now. Because now it's already making not this week we find the National Assembly till in the hands of nobody. It's like a game, it's like a play. And we all sit home and we looking on. I encourage us tonight that we get involved. Don't look and say, listen, this ain't happening for me, and this body don't like me, like you're a victim, and like we become a part of cowards. Since when? We are so beautiful, that we will be so pretty. Since when we become cowards? This is not how we get into the center. We now get into the center and that's what Dr. Hines alone in Buster. You gotta come up to you. And tonight, I'm thinking that you yourself might take the floor when you leave here. And by the time you go to the door, you reach home and you go to your neighbors. You gotta tell them, listen, you see this thing that we're talking about? The movement for equality is a real one. It comes with action. And the action is me. Then and only then, we are going to see equality. There's no equality in education. Your child went to school and benefited from the education that my grandson is benefiting from. Let's get real. You can't get the health care if you don't have money. Everything in this country, who got money, got bargain. Who knows somebody, get the edge. And so when you make a commitment and get into the middle of the table, that is what you're fighting against. You're not fighting against Indian and Americans and Chinese. Some of you, the citizens, when you say by yourself, you got to go by the spirit of prayer. Mommy, you want people to talk because everything else talking about black people, it's a problem. Hello? Hello? I'm an African woman, please. Right. And I'm happy about it. So, if we got one person that ready to see us come and put it in the center, maybe you could take it for 30 minutes if you in the ear. Because I just don't want to talk and sweat like feeling bad. I want to go with it. There's something, this is not an call. This is a call to make a big difference and change in Guyana. This is the new Guyana, the vision of Guyana that we're talking. History we're talking about. Because you know it's history. We get it to the center of the table. We got only one person who even stand up and say, the life committed. For the time spent with you, again, let me thank you, Dr. Hines, and it was a pleasure being here. Thank you.
Let us thank the organizers, the 1st of August movement of Roysdale. Give them a round of applause. Multi-purpose club, give them a round of applause. The Society for African Guyanese Empowerment, Buxton, give them a round of applause. And Sister Brooms has called for that movement for racial unity. It's a movement. And a movement must involve everyone. Whether you're moderate, whether you're radical, whether you're conservative, when you're facing oppression, we have to come together as one powerful force to kick down the door of oppression. And so, I want to call to the microphone our final speaker. He is the Shadow Attorney General. He's a member of the People's National Congress. And I stress that. Because last week, we had the leader of the People's National Congress, the leader of the opposition at the ninth top, as our keynote speaker. And we are bringing another leader of the PLC here tonight. And there is a reason we have invited these leaders. Tina Regular. Tina Regular. And those who we give theoretically 200 and something thousand votes, they steal some. They've got to cry with us, feel for us, think with our minds, see with our eyes, and speak with our voices. Only then, and only then, will our struggle for equality and justice be a struggle that will win. There is a time and a season for everything. There's a time for politicking. There's a time to shut the box. And there's a time to stand up erect. Watch your people and say, I am with you. In that spirit that we are people to, that we invite one of the major leaders of the major opposition party to come to this microphone and talk to us real talk, people to people. Give it a hand.
Good evening, brothers and sisters. I spent the last hour or more wondering when Dr. Hayes can call me up to speak. I've had the benefit of listening to very important presentations. And, you know, unlike many people in the government, I believe in God. And as I sat there, I understood that it was not by accident that I was made to speak last. And you will see from my presentation tonight why. Brothers and sisters, it's an honor to be invited by the Boston 1st of August movement and the Society for African Guyanese Empowerment to express my thoughts on the relevant and timely topic of centering racial equality in an Irish Guyana at this Eusi Kwayana Emancipation Symposium. Before I delve into the topic, I acknowledge my presence among great people who are the descendants of strong men and women who came out of slavery, an industrious group of people who survived the worst experience known to mankind, that no other group has been forced to endure plantation labor for over 200 years. They were forced on them and they survived. We are in the presence of people who work industriously after being free, who pooled their pennies, their shillings, and bought villages. This village, Boston, being one of them. And I am in the presence of people of the indomitable will, of people unafraid. As the story goes, Boston people stop trading. Boston, I'm proud of you. I'm proud to be in presence. And as a young boy, I was given many stories from my grandfather, who lived in this village, and from my mother. The man in whose name this symposium is being held is by any fair assessment a Guyanese icon. And as stated in the review of his book, The Legend Post-Emancipation Villages in Guyana, Making World History, they describe him in this way. Eusi is a legend in his own time. He's a consummate educator, thinker, a teacher, a leader, a giant of a man, a village man, an elder at 91 as he was then, a griot at best. Kwayana's legacy will endure, and all Guyana owes this Buxton son a deep sense of gratitude. As a Guyanese and a member of PNCR, I not only acknowledge his contributions to Guyana, but also to the PNC, for providing the lyrics of the party's battle song, and this very important stanza: out of ages of oppression, independent now we stand, newly born again, victorious, reigning masters of our land on the peak of Mount Orion, or beneath the rising sun, from the mark of Ponte Playa to where the eastern currents run, all were given liberty by the might of the PNC. These are painful words, and it continues to be a living testimony to the mind, the intellect, and contribution of this great man. In my opinion, centering any discussion on racial equality in Guyana requires an assessment of the content and the quality of equality as enshrined as a principle at the core of the constitutional system of Guyana. And that system is found in the Constitution of Guyana. This Constitution expresses and declares a commitment to the ideals and principles of equality and non-discrimination. In the preamble, it says that we, all of us, irrespective of race and class and religion, sexual orientation and gender, we, the Guyanese people, intend, and I quote, forge a system of governance that promotes concerted effort and broad-based participation in national decision-making in order to develop a viable economy and a harmonious community based on what? Based on democratic values, social justice, fundamental human rights, and the rule of law. That we intend to celebrate our cultural and racial diversity and strengthen our unity for the purpose of eliminating any and every form of discrimination. That we, the people of Guyana, will value this very special place in our nation of the indigenous people and their right to land and security and the promulgation of policies for their communities. The Constitution goes on to declare in one chapter called, the second chapter, the principles and basis of political, economic, and social system, that we are supposed to have an inclusionary democracy so that we be able to manage this state together. And Article 14 provides that the goal of economic development includes the objective of creating and promoting and encouraging an economic system capable of achieving by fostering entrepreneurship, individual, group, initiative, and creativity. And one of the very important provisions in that part of the Constitution is Article 38. It says that Guyana should be a democratic state with a healthy economy. But these are the important parts that I want you to understand. You see, the Constitution is an important document. It is an important document. It is the founding document of this state. It's not the founding document of the PPP. It's not the founding document of the PNC and WPA. It's the founding document of the state. And you would have heard a lot about the obligations that the state owes the African Guyanese people. And ultimately, we must position their responsibility and our rights within the context of that document. I have a duty as an African man to come before you. I have a our duty as a citizen to come before you and to explain to you on each and every occasion, no matter how tired or got a headache, what this document says. Because by knowing what it says, you could charter the pathway for the battle. Any great movement for the advancement of human rights, for the liberation of people, must be properly based on a sound philosophical basis and doctrine. And we will stand by the Constitution, and I'll point out how we must lay our claim for equality in this country. You're not begging for it, you know. You've earned it by the sweat, the rapes, the death, and the bloodshed of your ancestors. And when that document was created, it recognized that. It recognized it. So Article 38A says that the Constitution and the state of Guyana, must facilitate the engagement of citizens in activities designed to achieve sustainable livelihoods. Importantly, that the state must progressively, not retrogressively, progressively remove the barriers that prohibit or limit the realization of the potential for what? For self-sustaining activities in such fields as agriculture, processing, manufacturing, artistic and information-based activities. It's not me says it. It's the Constitution says it. This is where you're entitled to. That they must encourage and support the mobilization of citizens, the self-mobilization of citizens, and they must provide appropriate support to the groups, to any group, and this is lovely. Provide appropriate support to any group, which is, hear Dr. Hines, provide appropriate support to any group which is or is claiming to be under the threat of marginalization. Brothers and sisters, I want to say it one more time. To any group, the state must provide appropriate support to any group, which means it is a fact, or is claiming to be, which means that the group believes so, under the threat of marginalization. The African Guyanese people is in a position where this is not a claim, it is so. It is a fact. You live it. And for purposes of documenting it and establishing it, I will do so tonight. The Constitution requires this state, by Article 149, that it must not deny any person the opportunity of equality. That it must promote, the state must promote equality and take legislative and other measures designed to protect disadvantaged persons and persons with disabilities. Now, our Constitution is about 200 and something pages. And brothers and sisters, without the fear of any sort of contradiction, for the purpose for which we gather tonight, and for the reason that we are marginalized, the most important provision in our Constitution is 149D, that the state, for the purposes of promoting equality, shall take legislative and other measures designed to protect disadvantaged persons and persons with disabilities. If you don't know who we are, you're going to know soon. You know, under the Constitution, and I will now explain to you what is happening in the reality and how the Constitution is something that lives. It don't rest on the pages of a book. It lives, it breathes, it chokes, it suffocates, and if used correctly, it liberates. And I'm going to show you how this government, the PPP government, have decided that they will make a serious attempt to choke you off, to squeeze you, and to stifle you. Wrestled by the sweat and the blood and the intellect of succeeding generations of African Guyans. Article 212N appears in the Constitution. It's a testimony to the work of Vincent and organizations that he supported and preceded him. The Constitution at 212N of the Constitution states that it set up a Human Rights Commission. And this commission has a mandatory constitutional duty and obligation to promote the observance of, the respect for, the protect and investigate violations of rights recognized by this Constitution or any other law related to what? Equality of opportunity and treatment, thereafter referred to as rights. This Constitutional Commission has never ever been established. It has never ever been established. So when I tell you that the government has choked off, stifled, squeezed, and suppressed the realization of your rights, understand that the Constitution is a real thing. It's like a sword. But we have to hold the sword. Martin Luther King succeeded, and other liberation movements succeeded by taking advantage of the law. Because what the law says is what the state is bound to do. And coupled with the dynamism, it's not law by itself, coupled with the dynamism and the mobilization and the capacity of the people to stand up and to rally. But as we on this point, when I file this court matters, I don't see y'all. When I file the court matters, I don't file it for the PS. I don't file it for Roysdale or Vincent Alexander, Dr. Heinz and Rocky Norton, or the Apostle, Simona, and our friend G.H. Lall. Apart from the weaknesses in the Constitution, apart from the government's and the PPP's determination, we have to take responsibility. I'm not going to come here tonight and let you feel that you are not responsible for the condition, at least for the continuation and the perpetuation of our condition. So this is part of our call to action, our assumption of responsibility to ourselves and to our children and their children, because we must understand that our ancestors have done more than enough. They have done more than enough. And if we don't stand up, we fail. And if we stay down, we fail ourselves and our future generations. So, this commission has never been established, and this commission materially contributes to the perpetuation of racial inequality that sickens this country and sickens this nation. You want to see how some of the most important provisions Commission is set out in the Constitution. It must carry out, or cause to be carried out, research and studies concerning the observance of rights and report the findings and recommendations. Now, I thought this would be people too. Now, you will listen and you will hear in the media. You got people here in the media. Barajab Eusi. There is no racism in this country. Nothing going on wrong. Let me present the documents. Bring me the statistics. Bring me the papers. Show me the numbers. The Constitution decided that is not your job. Because you can't go by Angel, the official bishop, to get no information. You can't go by Kroll to find out how much house lots gave out to who, what area, and where and why. So the Constitution decided we can establish a commission that will check out them people. And the commission is what will skin them up. But the PPP never set it up because they didn't want to get skinned up. So they want you to believe that the opposition, the advocates for equality, are lunatics, mad men, mad women, both the head against concrete. Everything is wonderful. But you know, on no occasion, they have ever said to you, these are the statistics. This is the reality. This is what is going on. So, that is an important commission that has never been materialized, has never been brought in effectiveness for you and the citizens of this country, irrespective of race, to employ, to expose, and to break down inequalities in this country. The Ethnic Relations Commission is established by 212A, and this too, even though it has been constituted, has failed to discharge its functions provided for in the Constitution. And I will show you. In Article 212DJ, one of the things that this Ethnic Relations Commission got to do is to investigate complaints of racial discrimination and make recommendations. Guess to who, Dr. Hanks? You know? To the Human Rights Commission, the same one that don't exist. It has to make recommendations to a non-existent authority. So they decide, but they can play trick-or trickery. Then they go and set up the Human Rights Commission. They set up the ERC. So when one walking, it's walking in abstract. It can't live in nothing. And your rights again are eroded. The system succeeds. So, as I go forward in my presentation, I want you to remember something. That the system is the political parties in power, and the system, the wider system of oppression, the wider system that supports, as Brother Vincent said, that supports the whole structure of inequality is sometimes wrestled and vested and set out in the very instrument that is supposed to liberate you. These provisions have been part of our constitutional system, and yet they have all proven incapable and ineffective in substantially reducing the inequalities which exist among the races in this country. In preparation tonight, I discovered a very erudite paper by Colin Constantine in a paper named Income Inequality in Guyana, Class or Ethnicity, New Evidence from Survey Data 2022. This man is a lecturer, professor at the University of Cambridge. And I'll just read the important elements of what he found. Indo-Guyanese and indigenous Guyanese are overrepresented among the top 10% income earners relative to the share of the total population. For example, Indo-Guyanese make up 43%, that is its statistics, but account for a larger percentage of the top 10% income group. In contrast, African Guyanese and mixed Guyanese are underrepresented in the top 10%. Hear the guys? But overrepresented among the bottom 90% income earners. Their share of total income, according to the bottom 90%, exceeds their share of the total population. You're so poor for yourself and other people that are around you, that look like you. You never understand it. These are the realities. And this is important information. And this is why events like this must be held in every single part of this country. This is not the job of politicians. Politicians will play their role, but every single person must sensitize our people, the African people in particular, the indigenous people in particular, the poor rural Indians in particular, of the reality of the circumstances under which they exist. They're so poor, so beaten down, so downtrodden, that they don't have time to even articulate why and understand why. We know it, we live it. People say you're a liar, you don't know about this. But I know, because I'm born with the gold spoon in my mouth. I was able to achieve what I achieved by the way African people do it. Generation by generation, generation by generation. So don't look at my status as an attorney at law, senior council member of parliament, and say I'm somehow removed from the reality of my people. None of us are. None of us are. And none of us, I hope, will never be. This information shows, according to this erudite professor, that it violates the principle of distributive justice because it indicates that Indo-Guyanese and indigenous Guyanese are unfairly advantaged in accessing top incomes, while African Guyanese and mixed Guyanese are disadvantaged and concentrated among the low-income majority. The low-income majority. The income differences along ethnic lines are significant enough that they contradict principles of fair and equitable distribution of income across all ethnic groups relative to their population sizes. In summary, there is an unequal ethnic distribution of income, with Indo and indigenous Guyanese overly represented among top earners and Afro and mixed Guyanese overly concentrated among lower earners compared to their population shares. This violates distributive justice. The reality of these figures as of 2022 indicates that despite all the expenditure from the new found oil well, there have been no observable impact on income inequality among the races of this country. The reality of the circumstances of equality of life of large sections of the population are set out in a number of reports. In the 2022 UNICEF report, for example, it says children from rural areas, urban poor families, indigenous communities, and other marginalized groups suffer from multiple poverty-related deprivations. That the lack of social protection contributes to the cycle of domestic violence, abuse, and neglect. The most vulnerable children belong to the already disadvantaged groups, that is, the indigenous and tribal people and the urban poor. This amplifies, the professor says, and it's shared in the report, it amplifies the urgent need for adequate investment in social services, in the provision of child-sensitive, risk-informed, and portable social protection systems. The report, UNICEF says that many children are not acquiring skills needed for decent development and limited opportunities for adolescent participation and engagement. Brothers and sisters, at 2023, we must not be surprised or shocked to find that again there has been no observable impact in the reduction on income inequality among the races. Moreover, there's been no dent in poverty. 32% of the indigenous people live in poverty. 50% of the indigenous Guyanese, Indo-Guyanese, live in poverty. And 20% at minimum of the African Guyanese live in poverty. There's no passion, there's no political will by this government to address the income inequality among the races and the wider issue of racial inequality. But I ask a question for myself, and I ask a question for you and everyone in the diaspora and all around the world. What is the equality that is provided for in the Constitution and to which we, the people, are entitled? It is the allocation of resources or other decision making, inclusive of the providing of opportunities, that cannot be made on the basis that everyone, all the people, are playing on the same field. South Africa, which had a long history of apartheid and discrimination, put in place laws and a regime to change these things. And in one celebrated case from South Africa, Justice Origa, in considering how do you really deal with inherent inequalities in the context of this supposed inequality. And the judge says this, she said this, and I quote, although the long-term goal of our constitutional order is equal treatment, insisting upon equal treatment in established inequality may result in the entrenchment of that inequality. So you can't start off, as Brother Vincent said in his opening, and you see why I'm saying that God wanted me to speak last. Because Brother Vincent told us that we are all different. And he told us that in the context of slavery, and in the context of indentureship, and in the context of what happened after, that people started off at different points. And by no stretch of imagination can we say that the African people started at the same point that others started. You know, we forget our own story. We forget sometimes our own story of sacrifice. We forget our own story of success. These villages that were bought by our ancestors was done by sweat and tears and industry. Sister Simona mentioned that our people got away from the plantations, even during the period of apprenticeship. and went into the interior, and with their hands, the intellect, and wisdom, found gold, came back, and bought plantations. So you are not in a position of a people who are mendicants, who have to put out their hand each and every step of the way for 20,000.
All right.
They want you to be that mental state. If they come to them, they won't be right. But you're collecting it because you're subservient. You're collecting it as a citizen, as a mere negligible, insignificant part payment on your true entitlement. So what we're speaking about tonight is accessing, obtaining, and holding on to your true entitlement. So the 20,000 is a small part payment. It's a little fraction of what you make entitled. So, there are constitutions, and constitutions around the world, especially constitutions that emerge from a system of oppression, recognize that equality must be a substantive sort of equality. Not just equal, not just equal. And you want to see inequality? The government decides that we want to give out a grant. Everybody will get a grant. So they pass through barrier, where the rich people live, and they get them 20,000. And they pass through areas where the disadvantaged, the marginalized, and the urban poor and other people live, and they give them 20,000. But the 20,000 that the government get demanded to there, that's no big deal for you. You don't really need it. Yeah, buy ice cream. But you, when you get 20,000, it's valuable. But still, its value that it brings to you don't make a difference in your condition. And what we're speaking about, and what this Constitution contemplates, is you receiving enough by virtue of your oppression, the system stacked against you, and what had happened for hundreds of years, that you must get enough to be on the same level with the people in Berlin. So we want, and we are entitled to, equality that requires the facilitation or helping of the creation of opportunities, the elimination of barriers which exclude certain groups from participation in business, public office, and employment. And we want equality of results, of outcomes, that it will be able to achieve equal distribution of social goods. This can best be delivered for us in the context of where we live in by a program of affirmative action. The Constitution, despite its laudable expressions and lofty declarations, as I said, would have made no real difference as currently structured, manipulated, and exercised. By the failure to establish the Human Rights Commission, the failure of the Ethnic Relations Commission to discharge its duties, the unenforceability of social and economic rights regime in the constitutional system, the lack of political will has resulted in the systematic continuation, perpetuation of a systemic and structural discrimination and racial equality in Guyana. Racial equality will only be achieved if there are substantial changes to our constitutional system. Firstly, the winner-take-all system has not worked, cannot work, will never work. There must be some form of power sharing. Secondly, the social and economic rights which are provided in the Constitution are rendered nugatory by the Constitution itself. Article 39, which provides that social and economic rights are rendered non-justiciable and you can't go to court and enforce them. Therefore, when Article 149d3 speaks of equality, including the full and equal enjoyment of all rights and freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution, the social and economic rights set out in the principles and basis of the constitutional system do not fall under this provision, and they are not guaranteed to you, the citizens of this country. But what are these social and economic rights? These are the rights that will allow you to escape your condition. These are rights such as the right to health, the right to education, the right to social security, the right to food, the right to water, the right to sanitation. They are in your Constitution as giving you rights as principles, but the same Constitution takes them away from you. The Constitutional Court of South Africa has declared that where there are practices which are not prohibited specifically and do not fall with any violation of the Bill of Rights, that the Constitution itself nevertheless requires, and I quote, obliges the state to walk the extra mile. Obliges the state to walk the extra mile. The state of Guyana must be placed under constitutional duty, not only to provide and allocate resources equitably, but this must be mandated to give priority to those rights in the allocation of resources. And when challenged by the citizens, the state must be placed under and vested with the burden of establishing the lack of resources. Thirdly, the legal recognition of an establishment of a special regime to protect and govern ancestral lands of African Guyanese people. This must be one key area that must be put in place. The Constitution, as I referred to earlier, places the state, and I told you it's a very important provision, places the state under a duty for the purposes of promoting equality to take legislative and other measures designed to protect disadvantaged persons and persons with disability. In my opinion, this provision is broad enough to mandate the state to take legislative action, including affirmative action programs and policies designed to redress any disadvantage suffered by individuals or groups because of past discrimination. This would include recognition of injustices suffered by the races on the periods of colonial exploitation. The Webb report of 1948 documents the evidence of exploitation of African Guyanese as well as their contribution. And it is fitting that on an occasion like this that I repeat it. This is what it says. The Africans have driven back the sea. I have cleared, drained, and reclaimed 15,000 square miles of forest and swamps. This is the equivalent to 9 million acres of land. In short, all the fields on which the sugar estates are now based were cleared, drained, and irrigated by African labor forces. All the plantations now turned villages and cities were built by unpaid African labor. In the process of building these plantations, careful research showed that Africans installed the following: 1, 2,580,000 miles of drainage canals, trenches, and interbed drains. 2, 3,500 miles of roads, dams, and footpaths, and 2,176 miles of sea and river defense. To build the coastal plantation alone, a value of 100 million tons of earth had to be moved by the hands of African slaves without machinery. So let no one tell you that you're not entitled to what you're asking for. You're not entitled to what you do, and not entitled to what you're demanding. The Constitutional Court of South Africa, in another case, said, and I quote, "It is insufficient for the Constitution merely to ensure through its Bill of Rights that statutory provisions which would have caused such unfair discrimination in the past are eliminated." So not because the Constitution says slavery done, mean everything done. And the court went on, past unfair discrimination frequently has ongoing negative consequences, the continuation of which is not altered immediately when the initial causes thereof are eliminated, and unless remedy may continue for a substantial period of time when indefinite. Like justice, equality delayed is equality denied. President Irfan Ali recently told an international audience, and I quote, "His government remains committed to the struggle for reparations for the crime of African enslavement," end of it. And I say, the very Constitution that he swore to uphold requires him, as the head of state, that he address the consequences domestically for the enslavement of the African people. You would believe that we sat together and we discussed what we're coming to say. But Brother G.K.H. Lall said, it's a crime. And this is what I said. The present-day crime of his government, which is inflicting on the descendants of the oppressed, continues the systemic economic marginalization of the people and contributes to rising poverty. The empowerment and the devolution of powers to the regional democratic councils must be done. The Constitution must provide clearly and fully for the devolution of these powers, ensuring that the RDCs take responsibility for social and economic development processes in their regions. These authorities must be vested with authority over education, health, water, sanitation, agriculture, cultural activities, and environmental protection. And in my consideration, very importantly, there must be the establishment of financial institutions, as our friend the Apostle mentioned, which will permit access to resources. A tax on the Guyana Public Service Credit Union and other similar unions must end. The discovery of 11 billion barrels of oil is a revolution for Guyana. As Professor Issa Sidji stated, constitutions do not make revolutions. Revolutions make constitutions. A careful analysis of our Constitution revealed that the Constitution is not up to the oil revolution and its consequences. The Constitution does not ensure or meaningfully provide for substantive equality in respect of social and economic rights. Neither does the Constitution place the state under a duty to address those rights in the context of inequalities in this society. The discovery of oil and the consequential wealth will most likely create greater income inequalities, social instabilities, exclusion, and marginalization if the constitutional legal system is not radically altered in a manner to promote equality and equitable distribution of resources and opportunities. The reliance on and use of the redistributive justice principle in our Constitution must be the basis for an equitable Guyana. We must break down, crack and crumble the edifice of structural and systemic discrimination for equality to have any prospects of being realized. We must, in this oil-rich Guyana, ensure that prosperity and wealth must be placed in the hands of all, particularly the poor of all races, in a manner that leaves no group or race behind. The Constitution of Guyana is in need of radical change and reordering if the oil-rich Guyana is going to be an equitable Guyana. The state must be made to walk the extra mile to end racial inequalities. That journey must commence immediately. Guyana must rise. Please stand with me. Say it together with me. Guyana must rise. Guyana must rise. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Roysdale. And sisters and brothers, yes, sisters and brothers, please give up a panel. There has always been a tendency in our community to sometimes say we talk too much. But here, this talk here tonight is proper talk. And so, we leave here with nourishment. We leave here with sponges in our feet. Let us push our chest out. We are not mendicants, my brother said. We are human beings, have always been human beings. And so, give yourselves a round of applause. We have some light refreshments. Please make do with it. And I know these days you all do the selfies and the mingling and so forth. So we will take some time to do that. There are a couple of announcements I want to make. The 1823 committee is holding their walk from where they're walking from. They're walking from Hiker to Paradise. And this is in commemoration of the 1823 revolution. This is the 200th anniversary of that. For Bostonians, there is going to be Kwayana night on Friday the 25th of August at Club Twilight at Roysdale. On Sideline. I don't know why I got Roysdale. And on Sunday, Coffee 250 is going to have their State of the African condition, and that is going to be 1 o'clock at the Critical Labour College, the State of the African condition, and there's going to be, I know Vincent is going to be there. Vincent will be very Nigel Eusi. Hope he gets well. He's going to be there. Sister Dawn, all the Kush is going to be there. Kimani and Eusi is going to be there. So the continuation of the conversation here, the theme of that gathering is the one-sided one Guyana. Exploring the one-sided one Guyana. So there we have it. I want on behalf of the 1st of August movement. There is a youth culture camp at Cloud Twilight tomorrow at 10 o'clock, so the young people in the village, please show up for that camp at 10 o'clock tomorrow at Cloud Twilight. So I want to thank the thousands of people who are following us on social media. I forgot to shout out to you, those of you on social media. We thank you for staying with us because you are now part of what they call the virtual setup. So once again, thank everyone for coming out, spend some time, partake of the refreshments, mingle, take your selfies, and all of that stuff. And we'll see some of you, if not all of you, on Sunday at the Crystal Labour College for Coffee to 50 State of the African Islands. Thank you all very much.